The alien princess rejected every suitor, until she met a human man. Untouchable princess. Princess Nylara stood on her private balcony overlooking the crystalline spires of Lumaria, capital of the Astrali Empire. The prismatic light of their binary stars caught in her iridescent hair, which flowed like liquid silver down her back. 27 suitors had presented themselves this season alone, each more desperate than the last to secure an alliance with the most powerful civilization in the Cerulean quadrant. "Your Radiance," came the soft voice of her attendant, Vexil. "The council awaits your decision on Prince Zardov's proposal." Nylara sighed, her violet eyes reflecting starlight. "Tell them what I've told the others. The answer remains no. But Your Radiance, the Draconian Alliance, offers considerable military advantage. They offer battalions and battlecruisers," Nylara interrupted. As if war machines could warm a heart, she turned away from the spectacular view. "I've studied our history, Vexil. Marriages made for strategic gain inevitably lead to misery. I will not become another footnote in that particular archive." The Grand Council was displeased as always. High Chancellor Morvith's translucent skin flushed deep azure with frustration as Nylara entered the chamber. "Princess, you have rejected 34 potential matches this cycle alone," he said, consulting his data crystal. "The Astrali cannot maintain diplomatic balance through continued isolation. Your parents entrusted you with our people's future before their ascension, and I honor that trust by refusing to bind our empire to partners who see me as nothing but a gateway to Astrali technology," Nylara replied calmly. "Now I believe we have more pressing matters. The quantum core requires maintenance." Chancellor Morvith reluctantly nodded. "The technician from Earth has arrived. A primitive world, but they've developed a unique approach to quantum stabilization." "Earth?" Nylara raised an eyebrow. Her education had included brief mention of the isolated planet, remarkable only for its diversity of ecosystems and the peculiar adaptability of its inhabitants. Later that day, as Nylara reviewed diplomatic correspondence in the palace's central garden, a commotion at the entrance caught her attention. A man in simple gray coveralls was arguing with the royal guards. "Look, I don't care about your approach protocols. I've got 8 hours to diagnose your quantum core before it destabilizes further. Every minute I spend bowing and scraping is a minute your entire city moves closer to becoming a very pretty black hole." Nylara found herself unexpectedly amused. The human was shorter than most Astrali, with sun-browned skin and dark hair tied back carelessly. He carried a battered metal case and wore no ceremonial attire whatsoever. "Let him pass," she called out. The guards parted, and the human approached, examining the garden's floating botanical specimens with genuine curiosity. When his eyes finally met hers, he nodded casually. "You must be important." "Nice garden." He extended his hand. "Kai Thorne, quantum engineer." The guards gasped at this breach of protocol, but before they could intervene, Nylara surprised herself by taking his hand. "Nylara," she said simply, omitting her 17 royal titles for the first time in years. "Welcome to Lumaria, Kai Thorne. I believe our core needs your attention." He smiled then, not the practiced smile of courtiers, but something genuine that reached his eyes. Finally, someone with priorities. "Lead the way, Nylara." Over the next several days, Nylara found herself inventing reasons to visit the quantum core chamber. She told herself it was merely to monitor the repairs to the Empire's most critical infrastructure. In reality, she was drawn to Kai's refreshing presence. "Your quantum resonance is completely out of alignment with your stabilization matrix," Kai explained as he worked, his hands moving confidently among the glowing energy conduits. "It's like you've been trying to play a symphony with instruments that are all tuned to different keys." Nylara leaned against a crystalline pillar, watching him work. Our engineers insisted the disharmony was within acceptable parameters. If by acceptable they meant won't catastrophically implode for another month or two, then sure. Kai glanced up with a grin. Earth learned this lesson the hard way during the Singapore collapse. Took out half the city-state before we figured out quantum harmonics. "You speak of failure so openly," Nylara observed. "Astrali engineers would sooner drink reactor coolant than admit miscalculation." Kai shrugged. "Humans make mistakes. We learn from them. It's kind of our whole thing." As the repairs progressed, their conversations deepened. Kai told her about Earth's oceans and forests, about street food and music festivals, concepts foreign to the rigidly structured Astrali society. In turn, Nylara shared the weight of her responsibility, the isolation of her position. "So you've turned down how many proposals?" Kai asked one evening as they shared a meal in the maintenance annex, her suggestion away from the court's watchful eyes. 37 from official diplomatic channels. Countless others through less formal avenues, she said, sampling the coffee he had introduced her to. The bitter drink was strangely satisfying. "Chancellor Morvith keeps a running tally to remind me of my failures." "Failures? Sounds to me like you're exercising quality control." Kai's eyes met hers across the table. "Where I come from, marriage is about partnership, not politics." "An appealing concept," Nylara replied softly. "Here, it's primarily a contract between houses. And what do you want?" Kai asked, the directness of his question catching her off guard. Before she could answer, Vexil appeared at the doorway, expression tense. "Your Radiance, forgive the interruption. The Draconian delegation has arrived early for tomorrow's accord. Chancellor Morvith requests your immediate presence." Nylara stood, royal mask slipping back into place. "Duty calls, it seems." Kai nodded, understanding in his eyes. "Duty always does." As she departed, Nylara realized no one had asked what she wanted in centuries. The palace buzzed with activity as 5 major galactic powers converged for the Cerulean Accords, a treaty meant to stabilize regional trade after years of tension. Nylara performed her ceremonial role flawlessly, though her thoughts continually drifted to the quantum core chamber and its unusual occupant. Chancellor Morvith noticed her distraction. "Your Radiance, Prince Zardoff continues to express interest despite your rejection. The Draconians would be powerful allies. The Prince expresses interest in our photon drive technology, not in me," Nylara replied coolly. "The distinction is irrelevant." "The alliance would benefit our people," Morvith insisted. Later, during a rare moment alone, Nylara found Kai on her private balcony, inexplicably bypassing security protocols. "Your security systems need work," he said by way of explanation. "I was recalibrating the shield harmonics and found myself here." Rather than summoning guards, Nylara joined him. A fortunate malfunction. Beneath the stars, their conversation flowed freely until Nylara reluctantly mentioned Prince Zardoff's renewed interest. "And what does your Radiance think of the Prince?" Kai asked, his tone carefully neutral. "Nylara," she corrected softly. "When we're alone, I'm just Nylara." Their eyes met, and something unspoken passed between them, something neither quantum physics nor royal protocol had prepared them for. Shield breach. The grand hall of Lumaria sparkled with the light of 1,000 floating luminaries as dignitaries from 5 star systems gathered for the signing of the Cerulean Accords. Princess Nylara presided from the crystal throne, the ceremonial garb of the Astrali royal house transforming her into a living embodiment of their binary sons. From her elevated position, she spotted Kai near one of the maintenance panels monitoring the palace systems. He was supposedly ensuring the quantum core remained stable during the energy-intensive ceremony. But she caught him watching her more than his diagnostic screen. Prince Zardoff of the Draconian Alliance approached the throne, scales gleaming with embedded jewels, his tail sweeping regally behind him. "Your Radiance outshines even the fabled crystal falls of Draco's Prime," he said, voice resonating with practiced charm. "You honor us with your presence." "Prince Zardoff," Nylara replied diplomatically, aware of Chancellor Morvith hovering nearby, recording every interaction. "Perhaps after the accords are signed we might discuss more personal alliances." Zardoff continued, his forked tongue flicking slightly. Before Nylara could formulate a polite rejection, a subtle vibration ran through the palace floors. She frowned, noticing the luminaries flickering momentarily. Across the room, Kai's expression had changed from casual observation to intense concentration as he typed rapidly into his console. The Astrali security chief approached the throne and bowed. "A minor fluctuation in the shield harmonics, Your Radiance. Nothing to concern our esteemed guests." Nylara nodded, but her eyes sought Kai, who was shaking his head slightly as he worked. Something was wrong. The ceremony proceeded, with representatives from each system approaching to place their genetic signatures into the accord crystal. When the Nexilian ambassador rose to speak, another, stronger tremor shook the hall. This time, the luminaries dimmed significantly before brightening to painful intensity. Kai abandoned his console and began moving purposefully toward the throne, ignoring the affronted looks from the royal guards. Nylara caught his eye, reading the urgency there. A momentary pause in our proceedings, she announced, rising from the throne. Please enjoy our hospitality while our systems are stabilized. As she descended the crystal steps, the ceiling emitters that maintained the hall's artificial atmosphere began to malfunction. Gasps arose as the carefully calibrated atmospheric mix shifted, causing discomfort for several species. The draconian contingent hissed in distress as the humidity levels plummeted. The atmospheric controls are tied to the shield matrix, Kai said in a low voice as he reached her side. Someone's hacked the integration protocols. The primary shield is about to invert. A deafening crack split the air as the palace's energy shield, designed to keep harmful radiation out, began to concentrate it inward instead. A beam of concentrated energy from the binary stars outside lanced through the now permeable ceiling, heading directly for the crystal throne and Nylara. In the split second before impact, Kai shoved her aside, his body colliding with hers as they tumbled behind a pillar. The throne shattered in a spectacular explosion of crystal shards. "Are you hurt?" he asked, his body still protectively covering hers, his face inches from her own. Nylara found herself breathless, not from fear but from his proximity. "I'm unharmed," she managed, acutely aware of his hand steadying her shoulders. The first time anyone had touched her so directly in years. Chaos erupted around them as security forces mobilized and guests panicked. Prince Zardov was roaring orders to his personal guard while Chancellor Morvith tried desperately to maintain diplomatic composure. "The override is coming from the diplomats level," Kai said, pulling out a small Earth device. "I can block the signal, but I need access to the main control node." Nylara made a swift decision. "Follow me." Together they slipped through a hidden passage behind the throne dais, her hand firmly grasping his as she led him through the palace's secret network of corridors. The contact sent unfamiliar warmth spreading through her arm. Who would benefit most from Astrali destabilization? Kai asked as they ran. "The list is unfortunately long," Nylara replied, "but sabotage during the Accord suggests someone fears unified peace more than continued tension." They reached the central control node and Kai immediately went to work. Nylara watched as his fingers flew across interfaces designed for Astrali physiology, somehow adapting human techniques to alien technology. "There," he said finally, shield harmonics restoring to normal parameters. As the crisis subsided, they stood together in the soft blue glow of the control room, both acutely aware that neither had let go of the other's hand. "You saved my life," Nylara said softly. "Just doing my job," Kai replied, though his eyes told a different story. "Keeping things from falling apart, I believe," she said, moving imperceptibly closer, "that you've done exactly the opposite." The aftermath of the attack transformed the palace into a hive of security protocols and diplomatic damage control. Evidence pointed to a saboteur within the Nexilian delegation, though the ambassador vehemently denied involvement. As accusations flew between the galactic representatives, Princess Nylara found herself in the unfamiliar position of seeking refuge rather than mediating conflict. She stood in the Royal Observatory, a glass dome structure atop the highest spire of Lumaria, watching the triple moons of Astrali rise. The largest lumina cast a pearlescent glow across the city, while her sisters Celia and Mira shimmered in blues and violets. The observatory had been her sanctuary since childhood, a place where even royalty seemed small, against the backdrop of cosmos. "I thought I might find you here," came Kai's voice from the entrance. Nylara turned, surprised at the leap of joy in her chest. "How did you know where to look?" "Your attendant Vexel mentioned you come here to think." Kai approached, his work clothes exchanged for simple diplomatic attire provided after the ceremony. "Also, I may have hacked the palace security grid to locate you." "A criminal offense," she noted with a small smile. "Add it to my growing list of protocol violations." He joined her at the observation rail. "The atmospheric controls are fully restored and we've implemented new security measures against further sabotage." "Thank you," she said softly. "Not just for the repairs, but for saving my life." Kai shrugged. "Anyone would have done the same?" "No," Nylara shook her head. "They wouldn't have. Most would have followed evacuation protocols for visiting dignitaries, not run toward danger." Above them, the three moons aligned in a rare celestial event, bathing the observatory in multicolored light that danced across Nylara's features. She was struck by how different Kai looked in this illumination, more otherworldly than she had first thought, yet somehow more real than anyone in her court. "The council is in session," she said, breaking their companionable silence. "They're debating whether to continue with the accords or withdraw until the culprit is identified." "And what does Princess Nylara think they should do?" "Princess Nylara thinks diplomacy must continue," she replied. "But Nylara—" She hesitated, turning to face him directly. "Nylara is tired of political calculations overshadowing truth." "And what truth is that?" Kai asked, his voice dropping to match her intimate tone. "That I've spent my life rejecting suitors who saw me as a means to power, only to find myself drawn to someone who sees me as me." The words fell from her lips before she could reconsider them. Kai stepped closer. "Where I come from, we have a saying. Life's too short for diplomatic double talk." "And what would you say without diplomacy?" She challenged softly. "That from the moment I saw you in that garden, I knew you were trapped in a life you hadn't chosen." His hand gently brushed hers. "That watching you navigate court politics with grace while keeping your true self hidden made me want to know that hidden self." "And now that you've glimpsed her?" Nilara's voice was barely a whisper. "Now I can't. Imagine leaving Astrali without telling her how extraordinary she is." The triple moonlight caught in his eyes as he reached up to touch her face, a gesture so forbidden by royal protocol that several ancient laws were broken in that single moment. Nilara leaned into his touch, closing her eyes. "Your contract concludes in 3 cycles," she murmured. "You'll return to Earth." That was the plan, he admitted. But plans change. When their lips met, it was like the convergence of distant stars, improbable, breathtaking, and changing the fabric of everything that surrounded them. Nylara had been instructed in the political mechanics of intimacy since childhood, but nothing had prepared her for the reality of wanting someone for herself alone. As they drew apart, a soft chime echoed through the observatory, the council summoning her to judgment. "They want an answer about the Draconians," she said, reluctantly stepping back. Prince Zardoff used the chaos to renew his proposal, suggesting a royal union would stabilize regional tensions. Kai's expression darkened. "Convenient timing, indeed." Nylara straightened, royal bearing returning. "Tonight I will give them my final answer on all marriage proposals." "And what will that answer be?" Kai asked, vulnerability showing through his usually confident demeanor. Nylara smiled, not the practiced royal smile, but something real and slightly mischievous. "Come to the council session and find out." The Grand Council chamber hummed with tension, as representatives from all 5 powers gathered to determine the future of the Cerulean Accords. At the center of the circular chamber stood the deliberation pool, a liquid quantum computer that processed diplomatic outcomes with perfect impartiality. Chancellor Morvith addressed the assembly. "The sabotage attempt has been contained. Security protocols identify the perpetrator as an agent of the Void Consortium, seeking to destabilize our alliance." His translucent skin rippled with displeasure. "Despite this attempt, the Astrali Empire proposes the accords continue, with additional security provisions." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. Princess Nylara sat silently, aware of Kai standing among the Earth delegation at the chamber's edge. Their eyes met briefly across the room. Prince Zardoff rose, his scaled form gleaming in the chamber's light. "The Draconian Alliance supports continuation of the accords. Furthermore, to ensure lasting stability, I formally renew my proposal of union with Princess Nylara of the Astrali." Chancellor Morvith turned expectantly toward Nylara. "Your Radiance, the Council awaits your response to this generous offer, which would cement our interstellar alliances." Nylara rose from her seat, the ceremonial crown of Astrali catching the light. The chamber fell silent as she approached the deliberation pool. "For 27 cycles I have served the Astrali Empire as heir and regent," she began, her voice clear and strong. "I have placed duty above personal desire, empire above self. I have reviewed 37 formal proposals of union, each promising advantage, alliance, and advancement." She touched the surface of the deliberation pool, causing it to shimmer with her genetic signature. The liquid began calculating political outcomes based on her next words. "Today I reject them all. including the proposal from the Honorable Prince Zardov. Gasps echoed through the chamber. Chancellor Morvith stepped forward in alarm. "Your Radiance, the diplomatic implications and will be managed," Nilara interrupted firmly. "Because today, I also propose a new form of alliance." The deliberation pool shifted colors, processing her unexpected declaration. The recent attack revealed vulnerabilities in our isolated systems. True security comes not from marriages of convenience, but from genuine cooperation and cultural exchange. She gestured toward the Earth delegation. The humans, despite their relatively recent emergence into interstellar society, have demonstrated adaptive problem-solving we could benefit from. The pool's calculations began showing unexpected outcomes, paths of alliance previously unconsidered. I propose a cultural exchange initiative between all signatory powers, beginning with an extended mission between Earth and Australia, Nilara continued. Not an alliance through marriage, but through mutual understanding and shared knowledge. Prince Zardov's tail lashed in irritation. And who would lead this initiative? I would, Nilara said simply, alongside specialists chosen for their expertise rather than their bloodlines. Her eyes found Kai's again, and this time she didn't look away. Starting with the continuation of our quantum harmonization project, led by engineer Kai Thorne. The council erupted in protests and questions, but the deliberation pool had already rendered its verdict, a shimmering golden hue indicating an unexpectedly favorable outcome. Chancellor Morvith stared at the result in disbelief. The pool predicts this path leads to greater stability than any proposed political union, he admitted reluctantly as the session adjourned into chaotic discussion. Nilara made her way through the crowd to where Kai stood. Cultural exchange initiative, he asked with a raised eyebrow. It buys us time, she replied quietly. The exchange program will take at least a cycle to establish, during which you'll need to remain on Australia as a technical advisor. And after that? After that, Nilara said, allowing her hand to briefly touch his. We'll have options that don't exist today. Later that evening, they stood together on her private balcony. The cityscape of Lumaria stretched before them like a sea of stars brought to ground. My people have a saying, Nilara said. Looking out at the empire she'd someday rule. The stars set our course, but we choose how to navigate it. Kai took her hand openly now, no longer hidden from view. On Earth, we say something simpler. Where there's a will, there's a way. Is there a way, Kai? She asked, her composure faltering slightly. Between an alien princess bound by duty and a human engineer bound for another world? In answer, Kai drew her close, their foreheads touching in the intimate gesture of Australia affection he had learned from her. I've spent my career finding paths through impossible quantum states, he said softly. Compared to that, bridging a few light years and some cultural differences seems perfectly reasonable. Beneath the light of 3 moons, Princess Nilara of the Australia Empire and Kai Thorne of Earth sealed their unlikely beginning with a kiss, one that defied protocol, politics, and the vast distances between their worlds. In the palace below, the Cerulean Accords were signed at last. 5-star systems committed to peace and exchange, unaware that the greatest exchange had already begun with a princess who found love not in grand gestures or political advantage, but in the simple recognition of being seen for who she truly was. So, Kai murmured against her lips. What happens now? Nilara smiled, her violet eyes reflecting starlight and possibility. Now we write our own story.